Hello, everybody. I will call this meeting of the City of Boise's Public Works Commission to order and start with a quick roll call. When I call your name, please let me know that you are here. Commissioner Ellis.
Here.
Commissioner Crowley.
Here. Commissioner
Hilton. Commissioner Morgan.
Here.
Commissioner Collette. And Commissioner Lockett.
Here.
Welcome. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from our last regular meeting, and I would entertain a motion.
Chair, I make a motion to approve last meeting's minutes.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chair, I'll second that motion.
All right, motion and seconded. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
I'll abstain since I was.
And one abstention. All right, and the motion passes, and that brings us to our agenda. And the first item is the introduction of our new Public Works Commissioner. So I actually need a microphone.
Should have grabbed that earlier. So it's our pleasure, Chair Gravatt, to welcome our newest commissioner, Commissioner Lockett. I'll let her introduce herself and her background. We're really excited to have her. It's a unique skill set that we're adding to the commission that we're looking forward to leveraging, frankly. And then after Commissioner Lockett introduces herself, I thought we could have our senior managers in the back row introduce themselves to you. Maybe, I guess, first the other commissioners, and then we can go to the staff and just do introductions. So Commissioner Lockett, do you want to introduce yourself, your background, and welcome?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, folks, for having me here. My name is Robin Lockett. As was stated, I'm new to the commission. This is my first meeting, and I look forward to serving, to learning, to getting to know people, and to digging in. I appreciate details. I appreciate information. So I look forward to doing my homework and learning about all the good things that we have going on in the city, specifically with the Public Works Department and this commission. I grew up here in Boise, graduated from Boise High, went off to college, and came back after that. I have a couple little boys in elementary school, and I worked as nonpartisan staff for the legislature for 14 years. I'm very proud of that work. I did budget and policy recommendations with them, and it was interesting. I learned a lot and gained a lot of skills, particularly in the budget side of the house. I'm not an accountant, but we can do budget. We can do big numbers. And then currently I work at the Office of the Attorney General, and just look forward to serving state. I've served in state government, like I said, and just appreciate that how much staff means to the process, because I have been staff for the state and for state government, but at the same level, to me, that's analogous with city government. So I look forward to serving. I look forward to your patience as I learn new things, and just really grateful to be here. I really mean that. So thank you.
Welcome. And Chair, do you want to just introduce yourself and kind of go around the commission table, and then we'll head out to the staff?
Absolutely. And welcome to the commission. I look forward to learning from your expertise. My name is Crispin Gravatt. I'm the chair, been on the commission since, I believe, 2018, that spring. On my background, my day job, I work for the Idaho STEM Action Center, so focusing on science, technology, engineering, and math, education, and workforce development. And I'll turn it over to Commissioner Ellis.
Thank you. I'm Jennifer Ellis, and I'm the vice chair of the Public Works Commission. And I've been here since March of last year. I think it was the same. Yep. So it's been just over a year. And I'm an engineer by trade, and I have an environmental consulting firm called Resilience. And I also went to Boise High. I have a feeling it was a lot sooner than you were there. And I also have two boys. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Abigail. I have been on the commission same amount of time as Jen. We joined March of last year. My day job is working as a consultant at Agnew Beck. I have been there for a little over a year now, and I'm an associate. We It's hard to do our elevator pitch because we do way too many things, but we work on anything ranging from strategic planning all the way to comprehensive planning to meeting coordination. And so doing a lot of like community work in the background. So I love being able to help build this community in all the ways.
Robin, it's nice to meet you. I have a daughter who graduated from Boise High as well. I'm Larry Crowley. I've been on the commission since January of 2013, I think. So it's about 10 years. This is, I think it's been said, this is the best department in the best city we have going for us. This is a great group. They're an incredible group, and I think you'll find just a great bunch to work with. And the work it's being done is very, very meaningful, and it's relevant to many thousands of people that make Boise home. So more look forward to your involvement. Thank you.
Gerald, maybe take it from here and then introduce staff as well. So I'm Steve Burgos. I'm the Public Works Director. So I oversee the Public Works Department. We have a wide range of services that we offer. We have our utilities that we run, the water renewal services, the solid waste program, recycling, trash, composting. We also have the engineering department that does a lot of the engineering design or oversees the design work and construction of our major projects. We oversee all the city facilities, so City Hall, fire stations, libraries now. They all fall under Public Works for not only operation and maintenance, but also any capital planning that might be needed. We have our financial side. All the rates analysis happens in Public Works, all of that cost of service studies, et cetera. We have our environmental planning group that does a lot of the forecasting for our water renewal services, future planning. We'll get into something big news that happened last week that the planning piece was a big part of. We also have our operations department that will introduce the operations manager as well. That's, as you would imagine, those are the day-to-day operations of our facilities, the geothermal utility. And then we also have a very small irrigation district that we run. Am I missing something? Oh, climate action. How could I forget that? The climate action division is the newest division in Public Works. It's about 2 years old. And our climate action manager, Steve Opel's here tonight. He'll introduce himself. And then we're going to be talking about energy, which falls under the climate action division. Working my way through, I think I covered everything. So let's maybe turn around, and our senior managers are here. That's basically the leadership team for Public Works. And I am incredibly fortunate to have this team behind me. They are passionate. I talk a lot about them. I brag a lot about them. They're smart and they're passionate. That's a wicked combination. And to a person, they are that. And they've done just amazing work during my tenure and before I got here to set up the city on some amazing fronts on the utility side. So
they're the best in the biz. And real quick before we hop over, we are joined online by Commissioner Hilton and Councilmember Bajent. If either of you would like to hop off mute and introduce yourself.
Sure. I guess I was fastest with the unmute, so I'm going to go first. So I am Julia Hilton. I have been on the Public Works Commission since probably 2014 or so. I have a background in utility work. I currently work in-house at Idaho Power, and I've been here for 10 years. I'm the Deputy General Counsel, so I oversee all of the legal work on the operational side of the utility. Before I worked here, I worked at a utility that did water, wastewater, solid waste, and also imported and distributed fuel. So I have a broad background in utilities, and I think that the Public Works Commission is an incredible way to stay connected to that in the place that we live. So.
Hi, everybody. I'm Patrick Bajent. I am I think I am the council liaison to the Public Works Commission. Each commission in the city has or should have at least one. And my job is to stay abreast of what's going on, be helpful to the commission however I can, and particularly as decisions of the commission move up to the council. I can make sure that my colleagues on the council understand context or background or whatever we need to do to get you the support that you need. I don't vote. I'm not a part of your body. I'm not my job is not to influence your decision making or to try to, corral you in any certain way, but really just to understand what you guys are thinking and be a good conduit of information from the council to you and from you to the council, so that your good work gets understood and appreciated and used the best way possible. And then I guess the last thing I'd say is I agree completely with Commissioner Crowley as to the level of excitement and awesomeness and wonderfulness that comes out of both this commission and the department that it works with.
Awesome, thank you. And it looks like we are joined as well by, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Ellie Cross. I'm a student at Capitol High School, and I'm going into my senior year.
Awesome, welcome. And then were we going through intros?
Yeah, with staff, if that's okay.
Yes,
Sure.
Take it away.
So I'll turn around and I'll introduce each person and they can give the background. So we'll start with Mr. Hubble, our Climate Action Manager.
Good afternoon. I'm Steve Hubble. I'm the Climate Action Manager. I manage the smallest but most mighty division of Public Works with 3 other staff right now, other than myself, one of which you'll get to meet in just a little bit. But we are responsible on a day-to-day basis for managing the city's climate, sustainability, and clean energy transition work. And then a lot of ways with a smaller team, we support the rest of the organization, sort of like consultants would, because ultimately the majority of our climate action work is being executed by other folks who work in other areas of public works or the city, or those of us out in the community with our residents and businesses. I've been with the city for just under 7 years. And prior to moving to Boise, I spent 13 years working for a local government, county public works department in suburban, in Northern Virginia, in the DC area. And I'm super excited to be out here in my new home, Boise.
This past mic. Ellie and Robin, nice to meet you. Haley Faulkner, I'm the environmental manager in Public Works. So Steve mentioned some of the work. It includes our long-term strategic planning and capital planning for water renewal, creating our recycled water program, managing the water resources portfolio and body of work, and really connecting that into some of the climate pieces. Our water quality group, which is a lot of the in-river work, as well as some of our pretreatment and stormwater pieces. And then the ever fun materials management, which is solid waste, kind of trash recycling and composting. I've been here 7 years at the city. Before that, wastewater engineer by training. So worked for consulting, did wastewater engineering, and now I get to use that and a whole heck of a lot more to do the work that we're doing here. So really excited to have you both. Thank you for supporting the Public Works Commission.
Hi, I'm Marcia Schmelzer. I'm the operations manager. I've been with Public Works for over 30 years. My division is the largest division. Basically, the team that do the day-to-day operation and maintenance of the collection system. We have over 900 miles of pipe buried in the city that bring used water to our treatment facilities, where that water is then renewed, released to the Boise River. We recover energy, fertilizer, and other benefits from it. And then the solids portion is transported 20 miles south to our biosolids application site. Again, there's 160 people in my team, so the largest group. We're mechanics, operators, scientists, admin staff, CCTV, inspectors of sewer pipes. We're farmers, a very diverse group of people, and we're very proud what we do. So welcome.
Hi, nice to meet you all. Good to see you in real life, John. And Larry, I haven't seen you for a while, so it's good to see you. I'm Sean Wilson, been with Public Works maybe 8 years or so, quite a while, came out of the private sector. I run the facilities department, and we kind of have 2 wings to it. We have a general fund capital delivery wing, so like fire station, new fire stations or remodels, city hall. And then the operations and maintenance wing. So like getting the table set up for commission meetings, things like that we take care of. So behind the scenes, we do a lot of stuff. And it's great working for Public Works, just a fantastic organization. So thank you all for your service.
right. Good afternoon. My name is Heather Buchanan. I'm the Public Works Chief Administrative Officer. So that's a fancy title to cover 4 of my divisions. So I'm the one of my teams is financial management. So Robin, we probably have similar backgrounds as far as budgeting, financial planning. We do cost of service studies, rate setting, and so forth for our various enterprise funds and general fund for our entire public works department. I also have a records management team. So we manage all of the records that are coming from all of the other departments. They're long-term, very important documents for the city. So my one of my teams manages that and preserves them for the community as needed by records retention requirements. And I also have the utility billing team. So they're answering calls and sending out bills for our various utilities. So solid waste, water renewal and geothermal utilities. We also do municipal irrigation billing. So we're kind of revenue collection side of, so we support the various teams by that. And then last but not least is our business process improvement team. So I have a small team that works with the other divisions to map out processes and help manage day-to-day details for process improvement there, documenting procedures and whatnot. So nice to meet both of you and welcome. Look forward to presenting to you in the future.
Hi, my name is Jim Party. I'm the city engineer, been with the city for 18 years now. The group I'm involved with, we do provide program, project, construction management, inspection services, engineering for a variety of the assets we own. Steve had mentioned a few of them, the water renewal facilities, the collection system, as Marcia mentioned, is over 900 miles, plus 27 lift stations, along with the geothermal, the small municipal irrigation district. We also kind of provide support and services, those types of related services to other departments. We work with the Parks Department quite a bit and help them out where we can. And then also the group I'm involved with acts as the floodplain manager, not only for the Boise River, but for several of the drainages that we have coming in off the foothills. And in addition to that, we're the group I'm involved with is heavily involved in kind of development services. So we work very close with our planning development services group with permitting for new development and new buildings. So welcome, look forward to meeting you all and getting to know you all in the future. And I think that's my last one. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. One of the best teams around. All right. And that brings us to the next item on our agenda, an update on the energy program. And I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Chair Gravatt. So we wanted to provide the commission an update on the energy work that we've been up to. There's been, excuse me, there's been a fair amount of work happening on the energy front, whether it's working on renewable energy contracts with Idaho Power, working on energy efficiency programs, building electrification. I won't steal their thunder. There's a lot of moving parts right now on the energy front. We're excited about it. There is a lot going on, and we're also involved with some of the work at the Public Utilities Commission. So I'll have Steve Hubble is going to kick us off, and he's going to turn it over to Will Gale, who's our energy program manager. Will's been with us for a little over a year, coming up on 2. Yeah, coming up on 2. Hard to believe. And Will's doing amazing work on the energy front. So with that, I'll turn it over to staff.
I think it's nice to see everybody this afternoon. I think microphone. Nice to see everybody this afternoon. I think Steve's actually borrowed a lot of my comments, but as I introduced myself, Steve Hubble, Climate Action Manager, and just wanted to give a quick welcome to Will Gale. Will's our Energy Program Manager, and the Energy Program Manager position was a new staff position that we added in the FY21 budget to expand our capacity in this important clean energy transition work, which follows the development of Boise's Energy Future, which is our plan for that was developed back in 2019. So we're really glad to have Will here. Steve, I, and others did a lot of this energy work in our spare time. So it's really nice to have a person who's focusing on this full time. Will's got a couple different things to update, and we'll be here to support any questions if you need. So with that, I'll turn it over to Will.
think that's all set. Do I have to share? Okay. Yeah, thanks for having me tonight. Yeah, as Steve mentioned, my name is Will Gale. I'm the Energy Program Manager, and I'm going to give a quick update on some things that have been going on in the clean energy work that we've been doing. I'm happy to answer questions as I go through here. Crammed quite a bit in, but I think there'll be enough time for discussion and questions. So yeah. And just a quick overview, we're going to kind of start broad with our community work and an overview of how we've been approaching this energy work over the past couple of years, and then get into some specific updates on efficiency funding for vulnerable communities, a brief regulatory update, and then kind of get in a little more specific to what we've been working on with our municipal facilities. And in both cases, we'll kind of give an overview of what we have as far as data and tracking. And then at the end, a little bit of our progress reporting that we worked with community engagement to develop, specifically on buildings and energy. And hopefully that'll be replicated across other climate action area of work going forward. And just to start, I know some of you have seen this before, but going to give a little bit of background. In 2019, the city established Boise's Energy Future, which is the pathway to 100% clean electricity. And then in 2021, there was established the Boise's Climate Action Roadmap, which is the pathway to carbon neutrality. And so this presentation is going to kind of touch on both of those. Clean energy is a critical part of how we meet those carbon neutrality goals as well. And then this is just kind of a visual of how these things fit together. So as we move across time, we have a 100% clean electricity goal for municipal operations that we aspire to achieve as soon as 2023, followed by carbon neutral for city operations by 2035, community clean electricity by 100% clean electricity by 2035 as well, and then carbon neutrality across the community by 2050. And this comes from our most recently greenhouse gas emissions inventory. We're working on 2021 right now, but just wanted to give a snapshot of how energy and how we use energy and how that kind of impacts our broader emissions profile. And so across the community, 60% of our 60% of our emissions come from energy. So how we use natural gas and how we use electricity in buildings and other places across the community. So that's why we're focused on this as a key strategy to reaching our carbon neutrality goals. And the emissions represented here, like I said, are a combination of both natural gas and electricity consumption. And again, kind of getting a little more specific into the data, this is electricity use across the community since 2010. And you can see it's been relatively flat for the last 10 years. The shaded area underneath the graph is the emissions factor. So how many emissions are associated with our electricity use, and that varies a lot more year to year depending on the sources of the electricity. And yeah.
It looks like the presentation is not shared on the Zoom page.
Thank you for catching that.
Way to get that up for those viewing online. But we'll work on it, and looks like it's up
I
now.
can see it now. Thank you.
Alrighty, thank you, Chair. Yeah, so as I was saying, while our electricity use has been relatively flat, the emissions from electricity use vary quite a bit year to year. And this is mostly driven by the Idaho Power's resource mix, and this is from 2020. There's a good chunk of energy that's already clean, coming from hydro, wind, solar, geothermal, and other sources. And then some more work to do on natural gas, coal, and then the market purchases that we don't really have the origin for. And shifting over to the natural gas side, we haven't seen quite the same stable use over the last 10 years there. There's been a fairly significant increase in natural gas consumption as the community has grown. Where there's not the variability here is in the emissions, since it's just one fuel, whatever you burn. More burning natural gas is more emissions associated with it. You can also, both of these charts have a breakout of residential and then commercial and industrial, if that's of interest. And kind of with that kind of broad overview, I'm going to shift and talk about kind of how we've been approaching this work and what we're doing to kind of help mitigate these emissions going forward. This comes directly from Boise's Energy Future, and it's our pathway to 100% clean electricity. There's quite a range of contribution to that goal here, but it ranges from utility scale renewable electricity all the way down to rooftop solar and other distributed energy resources, as well as the bottom bracket there kind of crosses over, or the bottom bar crosses over to our municipal operations. That's the contribution of our energy use. And hopefully by making that clean by 2035, we'll also clean up that portion of it. And kind of building on that, we've been approaching this a few ways, and this is roughly in order, but it depends on kind of the specific topic area. Focus first on efficiency and utilizing the existing clean energy that we have on our system efficiently. And so that can look like a variety of things, but encouraging residential efficiency, or in our own facilities, looking at ways we can reduce energy consumption. The second one is a transition towards clean heating and clean transportation, and that's really driven by the work in the Climate Action Roadmap. So that could be accelerating geothermal connections or transitioning to electrification of buildings and transportation, or other kind of innovations that we don't really have forecasted yet, but expect to see between now and 2050. And then third is encouraging increased adoption of renewables across all different sources. And then the last one here is really a focus on resilience, and that isn't really meant to be last. It's kind of throughout the planning process, but it depends, again, whether we're talking about buildings or other specific uses of energy. And then broadly, we're working to ensure energy affordability and that the benefits of this clean energy transition reach Boise residents and businesses. And I'm going to take a more deep dive on this specific program that we've worked on. Its funding was provided by council, called Energy and Water Efficiency for Frontline Communities. And this, just for some background, it was really a focus on long-term utility affordability, reducing household energy burden, and promoting equitable access to clean energy. And so we evaluated a variety of different options and how we could use that funding, and decided to partner with ELECTRIFICATION Community Action Partnership to expand their weatherization program. And weatherization is basically improving the efficiency of buildings in a variety of different ways. And they've been doing this for more than 40 years in our community. And our city funding was designed to leverage their existing program. So that's provided by the federal government Department of Energy and Idaho Power. And it's specifically focused on customers who with low incomes or otherwise are eligible for these services. And just to get into a little more detail here, weatherization could look like blowing insulation like this person is doing in an attic. It can be, duct sealing, sealing kind of air leaks, installing new HVAC systems, a whole variety of different things. But the goal is to bring down energy consumption and also ensure that folks are living in safe and comfortable houses where they can afford their utility bills. And there is eligibility guidelines. Some of those are income driven. Some of those are depending on the type of house. Renters and homeowners are both eligible to participate. And one of the main reasons we decided to partner with ELECTRIFICATION and provide this funding is that there's been a significant wait list across Boise. And the most recent number we have was more than 3,000 households are waiting for this assistance. And so the $90,000 we provided originally doesn't really get that far down the list, but there's been a growing demand for energy assistance or utility assistance, and then also this weatherization services. And one other thing, just wanted to note that they do address health and safety improvements that are kind of made as a part of the weatherization program. So if someone can't safely get in and out of their house, it doesn't really matter how efficient their home is if they have concerns with mobility or access or other things. And just wanted to provide some brief outcomes from the first year of this agreement. I won't go through all of these here, but really the kind of key connections are, improving affordability and also making sure that these investments are cost effective. So ELECTRIFICATION forecasts out over a 20-year period for the most part, on how much their money spent will save the resident over time. And so for every dollar they spent on the projects that city provided funding for, $1.57 in utility costs were avoided. And they were also able to leverage more than $300,000 from federal and other funding sources. And we also kind of put that in emissions because that's how we're paying attention to this going forward. And
wait, I wait.
Okay. Yeah, and so kind of next steps here in August, City Council approved a second agreement with ELECTRIFICATION, increasing the funding to $150,000. And then as part of that agreement, we introduced some flexibility for ELECTRIFICATION to be able to address air quality and more water efficiency where appropriate. They go through and do an individualized audit of each home or residence they work on. And so every kind of job looks a little different, but we wanted to introduce that flexibility where appropriate. And then with recent passage of federal infrastructure bills and other funding sources, we anticipate there being more resources available to help meet this community need. But those funds are a number of years out still and will be kind of over a 10-year period. So hopefully we can keep making a dent in the wait list, but there's definitely significant need across the community here.
Well, excuse me, I was going to jump in. Chair Gravatt, just something that we're focused on the metric side of the house is, I think we presented on the Clean City Index to you all, yeah. And so there's like 30 some metrics that we're trying to measure. It's related to environmental justice and health equity outcomes, and trying to measure like what is the current state as is in the city? Where do we need to be prioritizing our investments? This is a good example of, like, you might ask, well, what can you do about energy burden, which is a metric that we're tracking? Well, this is a good example of, we can invest money to try to reduce the energy burden in areas where we know it's disproportionately high based on income, for example. So I don't know exactly where these projects were, but if we were to probably pull up the map on energy burden, hopefully that you'd see those investments in those areas where we see the increased energy burden. So an example of a metric that over time we're going to be measuring and hopefully see trend downward. So.
Well, thank you. I was thinking of two questions. One, how do they define the frontline communities? I was just curious. And then also, how are the people that are signing up, how are they finding out about this?
Yeah, so frontline communities wasn't really specifically defined in the council funding. It was really focused on energy burden and kind of promoting that long-term affordability. So we also looked to the Clean City Index to find that data on energy burden. And then generally, I think we're just looking at vulnerable populations in general. LADA keeps track specifically of households with residents with disabilities or children under 5, or who are otherwise have some sort of situation that would make it harder for them to afford their energy bills or their home more. Some of those kind of health and safety things are factored into how they prioritize their funding. And just to touch on what Steve mentioned with the Clean City Index, in this second round of funding, we did kind of introduce those kind of key census tracts into that agreement. The federal funding program has their own prescriptive how you prioritize households, so we can't really supersede that, but where they have discretion, we're hoping they'll be able to target those resources in communities that have a higher energy burden. And then the second question, most people reach this program by applying through the annual energy assistance program. So LADA administers a heating and energy assistance program. And then if you're eligible for that, you oftentimes are referred for weatherization assistance as well. And so not everyone on that waiting list will end up wanting to go through with the program, or they'll move, like things happen, but it's a pretty good indicator of what the general demand for the service is. Yeah, thank you. And just one last thing to wrap this part up was that I think this is a good opportunity to kind of connect some of the strategic priority areas across the city with housing affordability and climate action and the equity work that we were talking about with the Clean City Index. So this is kind of one first step into that work, and it's been a successful partnership so far. So we're looking forward to year 2. Shifting gears here, there's a lot of different topics, so apologies for the rough transitions, but I'm going to kind of share a quick update on our regulatory and utility engagement work, recognizing that some members of the commission could probably do this update much better than I could themselves. So forgive me if it's a little bit basic. On the utility engagement side, because so much of our pathway to 100% clean electricity and carbon neutrality is based on what our partners are doing with the utilities, we work pretty hard to, partner with them where it makes sense and promote clean energy and energy efficiency options. And so with Idaho Power, the city's been participating on their Energy Efficiency Advisory Group for a number of years, as well as the Integrated Resource Plan Advisory Council. So the Energy Efficiency Advisory Group is pretty straightforward. It's providing input to their demand side management program, so resources that customers bring. So everything from how they structure their demand response programs to offerings on furnace incentives or other different things that go on with Idaho Power. And that's been a great partnership and helpful for us to learn more about what's going on with new offerings that could be coming that would be beneficial to our residents or to the city itself. And then when the Integrated Resource Plan, that's Idaho Power's 20-year forecast as what their energy needs will be and how they'll meet those needs. And so we participate on that advisory council. That 2023 plan is just kicking off tomorrow, actually. So Steve and I have the pleasure for the next few months to spend a day a week or a day a month on that. And it's a great process. We learn a lot. And then that culminates in a plan that gets submitted to the Public Utilities Commission for review and acknowledgement. And similarly with Intermountain Gas, we're involved with their Energy Efficiency Stakeholder Committee. It's a relatively new group, but it's been great to see the engagement on the natural gas side as well. And I'm going to give a really high level overview of what the Public Utilities Commission is and why we're engaged there. It operates somewhat similarly to the Public Works Commission here and has oversight over the investor-owned utilities across the state. So think Idaho Power, Intermountain Gas, Veolia, Rocky Mountain Power, Avista up north, all of those entities are regulated by the Public Utilities Commission. And there's 3 commissioners who are appointed by the governor, and they make up the decision-making body of that organization. And so the commission has pretty broad reach covering a bunch of the stuff that I've listed up here, but our rates that we pay as the city, as well as everyone in the community who's paying these utility bills, utility resource procurement that we talked about, energy efficiency, and also voluntary clean energy programs, which is something I'll get into in a little bit. And then we have the opportunity to intervene as utilities companies bring applications to the commission. So proposals for different things, whether that's increasing rates or new programs or just their annual review of energy efficiency programs is an example of something we get involved in fairly regularly. And then if our petition to intervene is granted, we participate as a party in those proceedings. So just like Idaho Power, the Public Utilities Commission staff, we have opportunities to engage the applicant and ask questions and receive, provide comment and propose recommendations on what's been offered there. So that's really high level. And again, I think some folks could do a better job of this overview than I could, but yeah, just wanted to set a baseline. Recent regulatory work we've been involved in is on two kind of key areas. There's been a lot of work going on, but first is clean energy procurement. We've worked with Idaho Power, and Idaho Power proposed a new program called Clean Energy Your Way to the Public Utilities Commission, which is a voluntary clean electricity program that would provide options for all customers, regardless, large customers like the city and all the way down to residential, new ways to purchase clean electricity and also hopefully bring new renewable resources onto the grid. And that's currently waiting on a Public Utilities Commission decision. And hopefully we'll hear something soon there, but that's been an exciting thing to work on the past few months. And that would really help us be able to meet our municipal clean electricity goals. And then just a quick update here, net metering and the changes or potential changes to that program have been going on for a long time. And net metering is essentially the crediting process for how rooftop solar, and when someone installs rooftop solar on their home or business, is compensated by Idaho Power. And Idaho Power recently submitted a study of the value of distributed energy resources. And so we're currently reviewing that along with other parties. And that's kind of where we're at in that process. Eventually, there would likely be some recommendations to change that program. And if you remember back to the kind of overall breakdown, distributed energy resources isn't a huge part of how we meet our 100% clean electricity goals, but it is definitely an important way and option for customers to meet their own clean energy needs. And all of this regulatory work basically ties back either to Boise's Energy Future or the Climate Action Roadmap as to why we're kind of getting involved there. And then kind of another big shift kind of towards the municipal energy side now. I'm going to kind of go over, just like we did with community, the municipal energy data that we have most recently approved from 2020. This is our city greenhouse gas emissions inventory. And you can see basically everything from buildings and facilities, water renewal, and streetlights is essentially how we use energy. And so a pretty good chunk of our city emissions, just like our community emissions, are made up from how we're using electricity and natural gas. And then employee commute is also a part of, or you'll see fleet and employee commute sometimes lumped into energy, which we're getting into now, but I'm really more focused on the utility side, so electricity and natural gas. And this is our energy sources, and kind of working around the chart from the top clockwise, we have identified what's renewable and clean, both from what's on our own facilities down to clean grid electricity. And then you can see we have about 55% of natural gas and grid electricity that we still have to work on to meet our 2035 or 2030 goal. Looking at the municipal climate action roadmap, there are 7 focus areas. I'm going to really get into the buildings and facilities section, but this plan is really our detailed pathway for how we meet our city operation climate neutrality. And each one of those sections has a bunch of opportunities and action items that we can take. And it's supported by this broader framework. And so I think many of you have seen this before, but just wanted to kind of provide the background. It starts with optimizing needs and assets. So really, do we need this facility or do we need this thing? If we don't need it, then that's a really easy way to reduce those emissions. Typically, we do need it. And so we look at improving efficiency and then advancing cleaner options. And we're going to talk kind of specifically about what we've been doing in the building side of that. And that's looked like kind of getting into building electrification pilots. And so transitioning away from natural gas in buildings, using electricity more efficiently, and having that same cleaner option. And then the last step there is matching needs and enhancing resilience. So that's kind of been the process flow that we've used so far, and that's used across the municipal climate action roadmap. And getting into building electrification a little more specifically, these are the opportunities that were identified in the buildings and facilities focus area. So again, it kind of follows that same framework we were just talking about, looking at existing building optimization or decommissioning down to making sure that new facilities constructed are as green as possible, and then procuring the clean electricity needed to fuel those buildings in the future. And then the last bit you'll see across the municipal roadmap is future innovations or carbon offsets if needed, if we can't kind of get there with these mitigation aspects. And so recently we've been working on some building electrification pilots along with Sean and Rob and their team, moving into the construction phase for 3. So we're transitioning the natural gas heating systems in 3 buildings to electric heating systems. And we expect those projects to be completed in 2022. With the kind of general supply chain constraints, there's been a little bit of delays there, but I think we're getting in the right direction. And those 3 facilities are Fort Boise Senior and Recreation Center, and then Fire Station 15. And then the point of doing these pilots is really to monitor how they buildings perform going forward and the costs, so that we can kind of build that into our future electrification projects. A couple of years ago, there was also a building electrification study completed. And so these facilities were kind of building on those learnings. So it's been a bit of a process to get here, but these are our first 3 that we're working on the conversion of. There's been some other new buildings built that were all electric, but this is the kind of transition pilot phase. And then additionally, the city allocated some American Rescue Plan funds to support this effort as well, to further reduce city emissions through building electrification. And so we're working kind of right now in the prioritization stage of identifying 5 to 7, probably closer to 5, with costs of buildings to convert to all electric. And in advance of actually receiving the ARPA funds, we've contracted with Jacobs to help us with that prioritization and also build a business case evaluation that we can hopefully use for future building electrification projects, but also for climate work more broadly if it's adaptable to that. And so you'll hear more about this as we get going forward. And then we'll also have kind of some reporting requirements from ARPA to track these performance over time. And that, speaking of reporting, brings us to kind of the last topic here, this scorecard that we worked with community engagement on. These opportunities are all tied back to the community climate action roadmap, and uses kind of the stop sign or stoplight analogy. So green is go or good. Yellow is, some cause for concern and maybe behind schedule a little bit, and then red would be significant concern. And so all of these areas are currently showing green, and then you'll see their impact on carbon neutrality in the middle there, and a brief status update. And so these are kind of the broad areas that we've been working on. We touched on them, kind of most of them specifically tonight, but this is kind of that high level indicator we're going to use propose to use going forward.
And just a comment, Chair Gravatt, a lot of times when this work requires us to, a lot of the changes are going to be incremental. There's going to be little things that building electrification, that is not a huge swing on our carbon emissions. However, there's other things that we're working on, like the utility scale renewable energy, that is going to be a leap. That is a big step, right? So there'll be these moments of okay, that's a big one that we want to focus a lot of energy on, which we are currently doing with the Clean Energy Your Way program with Idaho Power. But a lot of this work is also just going to be the grind of incremental change of, okay, one building at a time, getting it off natural gas and onto electricity, or watching the technology and what's coming. If hydrogen replaces natural gas in the future, that could be something that we could leverage. So there's a big movement aspect of this, the big kind of what are the big shifts that'll happen? And there's also just the day-to-day, okay, let's get this building converted, this new car that's going to be all electric as opposed to another internal combustion engine. So just a comment on the low, high, very high. Some of this is work that has to get done, and it's a grind. Some of it's really exciting and big. So
sometimes the tortoise, sometimes the hare.
That's right. That's right.
And I think that's all I had. So yeah, happy to answer any questions or entertain discussion.
Awesome. Thank you. Are there any questions from the commission? Yes, Commissioner Crowley.
Chair. Well, as an interesting presentation on your pilot project and the conversion from gas to electric. Could you be a little more specific on what you're thinking about in terms of the conversion technology? What are you converting from and to? Where do you see the savings from those conversions?
Yeah, so we haven't identified specific buildings with the ARPA pilot or with the ARPA funding, but generally we're talking about going from natural gas boilers to heat pumps or other systems. In some cases, connecting to geothermal would be another option if it's on the line or near the line. But that's kind of generally what we're talking about from a nuts and bolts perspective.
Are any of those conversions then able to use existing distribution networks within the facilities? Or do you have to replace everything, or you're going just to the source?
Yeah, so sometimes you'd be able to reuse the existing ductwork or how you're moving heat around the building for sure. In some cases might be looking at, ductless heat pumps or something for a smaller facility, but yeah, there's definitely infrastructure in the building that we could already be using.
One final question or comment. I'm really pleased to see you're on staff. Steve and I have talked about the need for someone with your skills and experience on the city staff because of the dynamic of everything that's going on, particularly in the energy industry and particularly in technology. So I'm wondering if you have someone who's following fuel cells, solar technology, and looking for the opportunities to apply those technologies very directly or specifically for city.
Yeah, Steve, feel free to jump in, but I think we're definitely paying attention to new technologies, and we've had opportunities to work with like partners at Idaho National Lab or other federal national labs on the city could be a pilot and demonstration for some of these new emerging clean energy technologies. But yeah, it's definitely there's a lot of excitement and dynamic activity going on here.
We were, Mr. Chair, or Chair Gravatt, we were just at INL last month. Yeah, last month. We, the mayor and some staff went out. We got invited by the director of the lab to come out for a tour. And it was an amazing 2 days, frankly, because I think the assumption is that the lab is focused on nuclear power, which they are. They have there's a big component, and that is exciting what's happening out there over the last 6 years, how much that's changed. There's like 10 prototype reactors that are being potentially either tested there or tested somewhere else that they're involved in. But what was more exciting is that the INL is the lead lab for electric vehicle integration. They're the lead lab for battery storage, microgrids. What am I missing, Will?
Those are the big ones.
Those are the big ones. So I mean, it's right here in our backyard. So the director would really like to see partnerships between the city of Boise and INL on emerging technologies. Could we pilot a concept around, say, could battery storage help you mitigate demand charges associated with electrification, as an example? And so the lab is really interested. We made a bunch of connections. We had a follow-up meeting with them last week, I think the mayor's office did. And we're trying to identify specific opportunities. There's one in particular. There's a DOE grant that we're going to pursue with INL on geothermal. And I think it's in my inbox, Steve Hubble, to review. So I need to do that. But it's an exciting connection point that we hadn't made in the past. And so to your question, where they see advancing technologies, they're going to reach out to us and ask if we'd be willing to maybe try something or experiment with something. So
thank you.
Awesome. That's very exciting news. Are there any other questions or comments from the commission? Yes.
I have a question on the slide that showed energy resources. I think it was a circle graph.
For our energy resources or
energy sources, yes. Yeah. I was trying to figure out the fleet piece.
Yeah, so that's just basically gasoline or diesel that we use in our cars. So it's all for the way that our greenhouse gas emissions reporting gets done, that all gets lumped in together as a fuel source.
Okay. And then is the biogas the landfill? Is that, or what is that?
The biogas is at the water renewal facility.
Okay. All right. I was trying to figure out. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, this graph is nice because it's all in one place, but also a little confusing because all of the ways we use energy are kind of lumped into one here. So that's, yeah.
And then we have on the fleet side, Steve, do we have 8 leaves
Yeah.
So the supply chain issues are impacting everybody and we're no different. And we have, I think it's 8, I say leaves, Nissan leaves that we're on back order, and it's been how long?
We do have, we have some existing electric vehicles, and if any of you parked down in the basement, you can see a few of them there when you go down the elevator. And then in either late 2020 or early 2021, the plan was to replace the rest of the general use motor pool for City Hall. So these are the vehicles that folks like us that don't drive all the time would use if we needed to go to a meeting or somewhere. Unfortunately, there's been some real challenges in the electric vehicle supply chain to get those here. One kind of exciting development, though, is out at Lander Street in operations. They did recently acquire a Ford Transit, and that's a little utility van, kind of think like a work van for a small business. And so it's really cool to have one of those as the city fleet, because those are the types of vehicles that are really going to be of interest to small business, and folks are going to be getting those on a larger scale around town. So I'm super excited to see how that performs, and then see how those lessons apply not only in our own fleet but also to partners as well.
Is that like the e-ride that BSU uses? Is that the same thing?
It's bigger. It's about Chair Commissioner. It's bigger than that. So it's sort of the size of a minivan.
Okay.
But yeah, Idaho Power did an electric vehicle event a couple of years ago where I think you were out there, and they had sort of a little more, what Commissioner Ellis is talking about is a little more of a kind of a utility vehicle, sort of like a golf cart on steroids, if you will, that they used to get out around their campus.
Yeah. And they've got the e-bike too that they're using that the plumbers like. It's pretty cool. Locksmith and whatnot.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments, commissioners? Yes.
Mr. Chair and Mr. Gale, I was hoping you could explain to me as the newbie, this was back maybe slides 7, 8 or 9, but I was really interested when you said that the community-wide electricity use was flat over those 10 years, that the gas was up, but with the growth that we've had, I was really surprised to see that we've been able to stay flat. So can you tell me why?
Yeah, Chair, Commissioner, I think there's a variety of reasons why, but yeah, you're right that there's been pretty significant population growth over this period of time. And so there's been some general improvements in electric efficiency. So some of just AC equipment has gotten more efficient. Idaho Power has done a really nice job incentivizing folks to make the more efficient choice across their energy efficiency programs. And so there's a variety of things going into it, but this is somewhat a similar trend that we're seeing, across the country. Electricity sales have been, relatively either flat or not increasing as fast as population increases across cities. Obviously, that depends a little bit on the time, right now, depending on how hot it is, or there's weather factors for sure. But generally speaking, our per capita use has maintained or been relatively flat.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I heard you say that this is on trend with other locations too, right, on the national level. So this isn't necessarily something we're doing in particular that's special, though we're getting there. It sounds like you're a good cheerleader for these things. You're doing a great job. So we're right where we should be. It sounds like you don't have any concerns.
Chair, Commissioner, I agree with that. I think it's regionally specific. So compared to other peers, I think this is a trend that you wouldn't expect to see huge increases in electricity consumption. We haven't had a bunch of air conditioning adoption or something like that, like other communities have. We've already kind of had that baseline significant over time. So some of those factors that other communities are dealing with, we're not really. I'm sure Idaho Power has probably a little more detailed view as to what's going on, but that's at a high level, what we've been seeing.
Thank you.
Any other questions, commissioners? Well, hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing how these projects continue into the future. Is there anything else to come before the commission?
Chair Gravatt, excuse me. I just wanted to report to the commission just a quick update. We got some pretty big news last week with the Micron decision. And so that was almost a year-long process. That was, I'd never really been in the middle of something like that before, that large. And we had worked with the company to try to figure out how best to meet their infrastructure needs. It's going to be a significant need that they have, and we're working through all the details on how best to do that. But I would comment that the utility plan that the commission approved that included the promotion of an industrial recycled water program envisioned this sort of thing. We were hopeful that we could create an industrial recycled water program that could recruit or lure companies that are aligned with kind of how we see the world on whether it's recycled water and green energy, et cetera, et cetera. It happened maybe a little bigger and faster than we were expecting, but it did happen. That's a good thing. Now we just have to pivot to the execution side of the facility, this new facility that we'll have to build for Micron. It's going to be a state of the art. I mean, it's going to be really cool from a technical standpoint. Cutting edge technology will be involved, and we're really excited about it. There is some trepidation, just the size and the speed that we're going to have to execute. So we're coming up with a game plan internally within the Public Works Department and across the city to address the needs that they're going to have specifically for that project. But I just want to report back to you all the news, but also the kudos to the commission for giving us the green light to move forward with that third facility concept, the industrial recycled water program. It aligned with what we heard from the community. We included it in the plan, and it did lead to what we'd hoped for. So that was very rewarding, and it's exciting. So.
Well, I certainly hope this commission and our subcommittee on that water renewal project will be able to assist with the fast pivot.
Yeah, a lot more to come.
When we can, that's one of those hair moments as we're tortoising along.
Definitely a hair moment.
All right, any other business today? If not, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn. We have
Chair, I make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I have a second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the same sign. Hearing none, the motion carries and we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.